Summit organized by Department of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Arunachal Pradesh, with collaboration with Vision Northeast Foundation. Now let's start our session with a famous quote. I think our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, have told us that art provides enough to satisfy every man need, but not every man greed. This quote had uh, put our thought in the next level. Like we have to conserve our niche, conserve our forests, and we should be collaborate to preserve our nature. So now let start our workshop on implementing CFR. Our panel members to come on the stage. Firstly, I request Mr. Kamal Medi, Landscape Coordinator, World WWF India, Western, and Amarendra Kumar Das from Department of Design, IIT Guwahati. And Mr. Girish Kumar, who is joining with us in online mode. Please have a big clap to him. We have to right now virtually felicitate him. We are very thankful to you. You are joining me. Please have a big clap. I request our chairperson, Mr. Kamal Medi sir, to please have a speech on our topic, like implementation of CFR rights in Northeast India. Thank you.
There has been a historical injustice happens to many forest dwellers. So eventually the government of India came out with a rights, settling the rights to some of the forest dwellers, which is that's FRA, that's Forest Right Act came into power, and that's actually talked about giving CFR, basically the forest rights to the communities and the individuals. So I'll talk about that in the context of Northeast India. So I'll mostly focus on what is the contextual in Arunachal Pradesh is concerned, and that what is the situation in terms of the CFR rights are concerned. So next slide, please. So why Northeast India? So if I talk about rationale, so if you look at entire northeastern India, including Arunachal Pradesh, so you have maximum areas like Karbi Anglong, Meghalaya. They have a 6 schedule provisions of Indian constitutions. So therefore they have a de jure recognition of community-owned forest. But for example, us, like in Arunachal Pradesh, which is like 371H Indian provisions, Indian constitutional provisions, which is more of, doesn't clearly say it's a community-owned forest. It's called USF, unclassed state forest. So there is a lot of ambiguity in terms of the community-owned forest. But de facto, all of us totally agree, we know this is the community-owned forest. De facto, we say it's a community ke under hai. So how many of you from Arunachal Pradesh? Anyone? Can you raise your hands? So all of you are very clear, your forest belongs to you, right? So it belongs from the ancestor rights, and it has been with you. And each village has their own demarcations, whatever. It's a traditional demarcations, but each village has their own demarcation is concerned. So the rationale of our, having a community-based conservation approach is this: 60% belongs to communities. All forest has high biodiversity values and cultural significance. We also have a certain geographical area. We are also part of, 2 geographical, eco-geographical hotspot, which is, Inter-Himalayan and Himalayan, Eastern Himalaya biodiversity hotspot. There is also evidence of communities coming together and preserving community-owned forest. Have you heard of Basar? Basar area, so there are people are coming forward and conserving their own forest. So there in Dibang, there are people coming forward and declaring community conserved area. So there are in Western Arunachal Pradesh, there are a lot of CCAs come up, which is mostly community-owned conservation area. These are all our community take initiative, and these are being preserved. Next slide, please. So this is the status of CFR, जो फॉरेस्ट राइट एक्ट के अंदर जिसको हम जो FRA implementations के बाद आए. So these are the status. If I talk about northeastern India, only 2 states has implemented FRA. Why? Because rest of the state told government of India that our lands are historically tribal area. The land and the forest belongs to us. So therefore, there is no need for settling rights, land rights to the local dwellers. So therefore, if you looked at barring Assam and Tripura, none of the state actually implemented FRA. So there is no question of getting CFR, community forest rights, settling claims and all those stuff. It never being raised. So that's why I thought I'll put this figure, because you will know what is the status of the FRA implementations in Northeast India context. Next slide. But I'll talk about little bit about why this FRA is not there. So with de facto the forest belongs to local communities. But is this something that we can have? Obviously there is a lot of ambiguity in terms of, I'll talk about Arunachal Pradesh context. There has been always forest loss. So if you look at for FSI data, so there has been every 2 years there is a state of forest report comes out, which is FSI bring out that report. So that report always reported loss of forest. So if the community has the custodian, if the communities are the owner of the forest, so there are certain issues, that's why the forest is being lost, right? So there are forests, which is dense forest, now it is getting into open forest. So there has been issue, so we need to address that component. But beforehand, I'll talk about Arunachal Pradesh. So Arunachal is, as I said, it's a part of 2 biodiversity hotspot, which is, you will talk about Eastern Himalaya and the Indo-Burman biodiversity hotspot. We also have, as in the morning, inaugural sessions, ministers are saying about it, we have 80% forest cover, which is we need to be proud enough that we have 80% forest cover. So that's one of the status that we have. That's why the conservation has to be a priority. We also have different ZAM plazas. You have number of, endangered, wildlife. You have endemic species. Number of species around 50% of plant species that's found across country, it's available in Arunachal Pradesh. So that's being recorded. So you have a tremendous number of treasure in Arunachal Pradesh. Next slide. So these are figures, these are statistics. You can take this presentation from the organizers later on. So this will give us a statistic. So if you look at plant statistic and the mammalian statistic, so we have a number of species that are available in the next, please. I'll not go to the statistic because these are all available in public domain. Some of the photographs, for example, rhododendrons, you have around 75 species of rhododendron in Arunachal Pradesh. So that's why it's very unique. Why it is so much of variety? Because of the altitude variations. It starts from 500, it goes up to almost 8,000, 7,500. So because you have so much of altitude variations, so their species diversity is so rich in Arunachal Pradesh. Next. So you'll see some of the species orchid. You have one of the highest number of orchid species in the country. You also have an orchid sanctuary. So in Sesa, this is a sanctuary is actually basically based on diversity of orchid. Next. You also have different species bamboos and rattan, cans. So these are all our next place. So I'll not speak about, because this is why I'm highlighting is that these are the treasure house of your state. that's where you should be focusing on, and that's why these are the species is not only in protected areas. These are also found in outside protected area, which is you so-called unclustered forest, and which we de facto we call it a community-owned forest. Next, these are all our species that you will find here. None of them are from internet. These are all our. So this red panda is one of the unique species you have in Arunachal Pradesh. Red panda is happen to be one of the highest, perhaps would be the habitat would be the highest in the state, followed by perhaps Nepal, because you'll find it in Bhutan, Nepal, and India, and partly China. But Arunachal in India, Arunachal would be the highest geographical region in terms of red panda is concerned. You have other species as well. Next slide, please. So you have that's another characteristic. None of the state has this unique feature. You have all 4 big cats. So you'll find tiger to snow leopard. So WWF has carried out a state level snow leopard population assessment with the Forest Department of Arunachal Pradesh. So that's shown how diverse we are. We have almost we have found around 36 species, 36 number of snow leopard, which is mostly estimations, of course. So that again, what I'm trying to highlight is because of your unique feature of the state, you have 4 different species of big cats. Next. So you have hornbills. There are 5. I forgot to add one more. So there are 5 species of hornbill. It's not 4. Next, please. Yeah, so these are again biodiversity. You have around 800, almost 900 bird species that available. In India, we have around 1300 bird species, by the way. So out of 1300 bird species, you will find in Arunachal almost 900. So it's quite a tremendous figure. Next slide, please. So you have amphibian reptiles. So one of our colleagues actually discovered the red one, which is named after the state, Arunachal pit viper. So that is being discovered few years back. So that's what the beauty of the state is, that still you are discovering species in the state. And these are the species are actually found in outside protected area. Next. So so this is the beauty of the state. This is what the biodiversity we have. And this is, I'm talking about only Arunachal Pradesh. I happened to work in Meghalaya a few years back. So I know how beautiful Meghalaya is there. One of our panelists was talking about a story of how the Hanumans brought the whole Sanjeevani, the hillocks to Sri Lanka. So there is a mythological belief in Meghalaya is that hillock happens to be from the Balpakram. The Balpakram is one of the national park in Meghalaya. That's the story. There is a linkage, the species that found in Sri Lanka is also discovered in Meghalaya. So how that correlations happens? So the people said Hanuman जो हिलक लेके गया था वो श्रीलंका में डाला है. So उसलिए there is a correlations between the species, So anyway, so these are a lot of stories around this. So this about Northeast. I'll talk bit about the Western Arunachal Pradesh, where I work mostly. My conservation effort, WWF conservation works are going on. So that areas is also quite unique, and also if you look at these are the species found there. So there are a number of species from takin to snow leopard to red panda, Himalayan black bear, and so on and so forth. These 2 districts we work. One is West Kameng and Tawang districts. So both the districts, if you looked at the percentage of the forest that outside protected area is quite high, around 78%. So for example, Tawang doesn't have a protected area. So entire district doesn't have a protected area. So all our de facto community, we call it community-owned forest. Next slide, please. So therefore, we need to have a conservation reserve. So what we do, which is equivalent to what we are talking about in this workshop, is the CFR, community rights settling. But we already know our communities has certain rights. De facto it is being under the custodian law, customary laws, it is being recognized. Even like, state departments also recognize that these forests and, lands belongs to the local communities. Hence, how are you going to strengthen this? The rights is already there. So wherever rights are not there, that FRA comes into the picture. But we already have that rights, but we know like there are issues in terms of we are losing forest, we are losing species, there are, roads are coming up, developmental projects are coming up in this, community on forest. How the communities are going to plan their, developmental program as well as the environmental safeguard. So therefore that we have implemented one model called CCA, Community Conserved Area Framework, which is basically nothing but bringing local communities together. So why that need comes in? So if you looked at like some of the issues, one is that people has been shifting from subsistence to market economy, which means today everything need to be bought, right? So we have been talking like, Professor Das, we have been talking, he is an IITian. So people need money to, procure certain things. So he is saying like, that we are doing that agriculture, there is no labor force. And so, but if our whole, livelihood patterns are the age old, that people will work in agriculture field and they will be paid in a kind, nobody is going to work. So earlier, that is how the, the labor force has to work. Like, धान के खेती में काम करेंगे तो we pay in a kind, like धान ही देते थे उनको. But today that's PDS and ration that comes, like free rations comes, because rice is always there. So and also like if in our places like in OS coming and Tawang, people are looking for, the youth generations are looking for monies and the disposable incomes, right? Not like subsistence economy. Our agriculture system always has been a subsistence, like, that's mostly like, we're growing for food, for table. But today, agriculture has to, that's agriculture commodities. So that's why that's an aspiration. So that there isn't shifting from there. So that's a good example. Another is that political influence. Obviously, like, that's obvious, there's the market influence. As I said, like, people has been influenced by market. The cabbage and tomato is not introduced by the department. From me, nobody has introduced that. It is basically, it's an off-season crop. Even like Meghalaya, you will see a lot of cabbage and tomato grows because, young generation has aspiration and so on. Next, please. So CCA concept is basically bringing communities together. It's a very simple framework. Bring them together, discuss with the communities, is there any certain pockets or area that you feel like, securing or setting aside for conservation purposes. There are many. In the villages, you have a sacred groves, you have water catchment areas, so on and so forth. So identify that areas and basically facilitate to the communities that what area you would like to conserve. So that's pretty much, convincing, negotiating with the communities that one. Once they set aside certain proportion of their village forest area as conservation area, so then you set it up a management committee to manage that area, what are the rules and regulations, how they are going to govern that area. So that's pretty much about a management committee comes into the picture. Then you will bring certain, value additions in terms of developing PBR, for example, like, documenting what is found in that forest, patch of forest, the management plan, and also like patrolling that area. That's no illegal hunting, patrolling, illegal, timber collections, it doesn't happen. So that's pretty much the process we follow. Next, please. So there are number of CCAs, community conserved areas, being formed in 2 districts. So there are 9 CCAs are being formed. There are 3 CCAs in Jimitang in Tawang, if you know that geographic. So that's again like extreme corner. One side is Tibet, another side is Bhutan. So that's the tri-junction pretty much. And you have Timbang and other areas in West Kameng districts. We have around 6 the community conserved area. So this is basically what we are trying to do here is to facilitate community that whatever they have resources, they document it, they conserve it well, and from that they can earn certain revenues as well. Next slide, please. So when I talked about revenues, so there are a lot of avenues that they can contribute on. So for example, so this is two pictures you can see. One is the homestay, another is the campsites. So you have all those provisions in your village, what you can promote. The right hand up, is the NTFP based livelihoods. Like somebody was talking about in the morning, Xanthuzellum, Elysium graffiti. These are all our medicinal plants. You have cordyceps, you have Paris polyphylla, you have Rubia cordifolia, all those species that you will find abundant in the state. But how you are going to market it, what is the forward and backward linkage, that we try to establish through this CCA framework. That whole management committee will take decisions on behalf of entire households. Another also you also have a weaving and others thing is also traditional cultural significance of the tribes that we work. We mostly work with Monpa communities. So that is also another area how they preserve their own cultural heritage through this CCA frameworks. Next. So what I'm trying to say here is that in the state, if we don't have a CFR, we don't have a FRA implemented, but across the state, there has been community-based conservation initiatives are happening, so which need to be amplified. So there are two that I would like to put forward as a recommendations from here, is that there is an ambiguity about community-owned forest. That in the people's mind, it's quite clear that belongs to us. From the generations we have been here, residing here, that belongs to us. Yes, that's there pretty much on the ground. But on the legal terminology, that's not clear. It's always we say it's an USF, unclassed state forest. It is not recognized as a community-owned forest. That need to be clarified in the state. Second is that whatever the small initiatives are being taking place, they need to be supported. Otherwise, what will happen if they don't encourage and support? So these initiatives will die off, and nobody will take care of their own resources in the future. So this takeaway from this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to share your valuable knowledge to us, our Arunachal, how rich our Arunachal Pradesh in natural biodiversity and how we should it conserve. Thanks a lot for your speech. Now I request Tengsek G. Momin sir to come on the stage. And have the seat, please. I request my fellow friend Deepak to face. Are you there, sir?
He is there, but we cannot hear him. Just asking if we are audible or not.
We are audible or not, sir, please? Actually, we are not listening here anything. So.
Hello? Girish, sir, actually you are not audible to us, sir. You can turn on your mic and video as well.
Audio is not coming, sir. Me. Are now able to listen your audibles, so we can start the session. I think so. होगा? क्या हुआ? अभी फिर बंद हो गया?
No, he will rejoin. He will rejoin. He will rejoin.
Yeah,
Now can you hear me?
yeah. We can hear you.
अभी सुनाई दे रहा है ठीक
हाँ,
से?
सुनाई अच्छा से दे रहा है सर. We can continue, sir. हाँ, sir. I request you, Girish Kumar sir, to Okubar sir to give us his valuable time and like have a he let his continue his speech. I think. Thank you, sir, to connect with us.
ओके, ठीक है. नमस्ते. मेरा आवाज अभी ठीक सुनाई दे रहा है ना?
Yes, sir.
सभी को नमस्ते, गुड आफ्टरनून. मैं थोड़ा हिंदी में बात करूंगा. मुझे लगता है कि कोई इशू नहीं है. ठीक सुनाई दे रहा है ना? ओके. अभी मेरे पूर्व वक्ता ने कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट राइट के संबंध में और विशेषता अरुणाचल प्रदेश के संदर्भ में हमारे सामने बहुत अच्छे से विषय रखा है. अरुणाचल प्रदेश की जैव विविधता, बायोडाइवर्सिटी और सेल्फ कंजर्वेशन किस प्रकार से हो रहा है वो उन्होंने बहुत अच्छी तरह से बताया है. मैं कुछ मेरे जो अनुभव है आपके साथ थोड़ा शेयर करूं. ये जो फॉरेस्ट राइट एक्ट आया 2006 में, इसको हम नॉर्थ ईस्ट के दृष्टि से मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट राइट जो CFR है उसके संबंध में हम लोगों ने थोड़ा अधिक विचार और थोड़ा रिसर्च करने की आवश्यकता है. ये कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट राइट में ठीक सुनाई दे रहा है ना?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट राइट में एक कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्स राइट ऐसा उसका एक सेक्शन 31I ABCDEFGHI जो 31I है उसके लिए पूरे ऑल ओवर इंडिया सेपरेट एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म है. उसका एक एनेक्स्चर 4 ऐसा एक कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्स राइट का टाइटल अलग देते हैं. इसकी क्या विशेषता है? तो ये आप 31I पढ़ेंगे तो राइट टू रीजनरेट, राइट टू प्रोटेक्ट, राइट टू कंजर्व एंड राइट टू मैनेज all traditional forest resources which they have been traditionally protecting and preserving for their sustainable use. यह एक बड़ा अधिकार है. मुझे लगता है कि अरुणाचल है, मेघालय है, मणिपुर है, नागालैंड है, मिजोरम है, इन 5 राज्यों में कम्युनिटी ही आज भी गांव का हेडमैन है या कम्युनिटी ही सारे रिसोर्स का मैनेज करता है. लेकिन मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये जो ट्रेडिशन से कर रहे हैं, इस कानून ने ही कहा है कि जो आप ट्रेडिशनली प्रोटेक्टिंग एंड प्रिजर्विंग फॉर सस्टेनेबल यूज, इसका आपको राइट दिया जाता है. तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो अपना ट्रेडिशनल राइट है उसी को ट्रेडिशनल बाउंड्री का मैपिंग करते हुए ट्रेडिशनल रिसोर्सेस कौन कौन से है, किस प्रकार से हमारी रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट की प्रैक्टिसेस हैं, ये सब डॉक्यूमेंट करते हुए एक कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्स राइट का टाइटल हम लोगों ने लेने की बहुत आवश्यकता है। इसके 2-3 कारण हैं। इसी कानून में एक बायोडायवर्सिटी का, जैव विविधता का भी अधिकार है। तो इसके लिए एक बायोडायवर्सिटी एक्ट बना है और हर एक गांव को अपना एक पब्लिक बायोडायवर्सिटी रजिस्टर बनाना है। तब ये जो फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्सेस है, इसमें जो भी जड़ी बूटी है, माइनर फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस है, हमारे यहां तो बहुत सारी नॉर्थ ईस्ट में आयुर्वेदिक वनस्पतियां हैं। तो बायोडायवर्सिटी एक्ट में एक प्रावधान है ABS, एक्सेस बेनिफिट शेयरिंग, एक्सेस एंड बेनिफिट शेयरिंग। तो जैसे रामदेव बाबा जी है, डाबर है, ऐसे लोग जो एंड प्रोडक्ट बनाते हैं उनको 2% बायोडायवर्सिटी बोर्ड को देना है और बायोडायवर्सिटी बोर्ड के माध्यम से ग्राम सभा को मिलेगा, विलेज को मिलेगा। जो विलेज हेडमैन, जिस विलेज में हम मैनेज करते हैं, वहां से जितना भी फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस और मेडिसिनल प्लांट्स बाहर जाते हैं, उसको हम थोड़ा सा डॉक्यूमेंट करेंगे गांव में, तो उसके आधार पर उसका बेनिफिट शेयरिंग गांव को मिल सकता है। और ये इसीलिए है कि ये बायोडायवर्सिटी प्रोटेक्ट करना, कॉन्जर्व करना, ये जो गांव के लोग कर रहे हैं उनको इंसेंटिव है एक दृष्टि से। और दूसरी बात मुझे लगता है कि इस फॉरेस्ट राइट एक्ट में कहा है कि किसी भी डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स के लिए, और हमको तो पता है नॉर्थ ईस्ट में अभी नए फॉरेस्ट कंजर्वेशन एक्ट में लगभग 100 किलोमीटर्स जो इंटरनेशनल बाउंड्री है उसके अंदर गवर्नमेंट कभी भी एक्वायर कर सकता है फॉर द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ द नेशन। अभी फॉरेस्ट राइट एक्ट में से लिखा है कि अगर कोई जमीन एक्वायर करना है तो पहले राइट सेटल करना पड़ेगा। इसीलिए है कि राइट्स अगर सेटल होंगे तो उसका मुआवजा मिल सकता है। उसके संबंध में जब कभी इंटरनेशनल या नेशनल आवश्यकता के लिए, बॉर्डर पर नेशनल सिक्योरिटी के लिए कुछ जमीन एक्वायर करना है, तो अगर वहां अपने कम्युनिटी के फॉरेस्ट राइट है, वो अगर डॉक्यूमेंटेड है, तो उसका एक लाभांश या उसकी जैव विविधता कितनी नष्ट हो रही, इसका डॉक्यूमेंटेशन हो सकता है। तो इसीलिए मुझे लगता है फॉर द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ बायोडायवर्सिटी, फॉर द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ लाइवलीहुड ऑल्सो, एंड फॉर द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ द एनवायरमेंट ऑल्सो, क्योंकि नॉर्थ ईस्ट में जो भी फॉरेस्ट है, जो अपने कम्युनिटी ने जो रखा है, वो जैव विविधता, बायोडायवर्सिटी का भी प्रोटेक्शन किया है, वो देश के लिए महत्व का है। और जैसा एक व्यक्ति ने कहा है कि हेल्थ ऑफ द हिल्स इज द वेल्थ ऑफ द प्लेन्स, तो ये वास्तविक है। ये पहाड़ में रहने वाले वन, जंगल और वनोपज, जैव विविधता, इसका प्रोटेक्शन उसी से ही जो प्लेन एरिया में रहने वाला अपना समाज है, जो भारतीय समाज है, उसकी संपत्ति वही है। इसके लिए पहाड़ पर रहने वालों की हेल्थ अच्छी रखना है, इसकी बायोडायवर्सिटी प्रोटेक्ट करना है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इस दृष्टि से नॉर्थ ईस्ट में ये जो 4-5 राज्य है, मेघालय, नागालैंड, मणिपुर, अरुणाचल, मिजोरम, जो अपने ट्रेडिशनल राइट्स है, उसको इस कानून के अंतर्गत हम इसको राइट्स का फिर से एक बार एस्टेब्लिश करके उसके राइट्स का टाइटल भी वो गांव ने लेकर रखना चाहिए। उसके बाद दूसरी बात है कि उसका जो मैनेजमेंट प्लान बनता है, ये कंजर्वेशन का प्लान है जो पीढ़ियों से कर रहे हैं, वो ट्रेडिशन के अनुसार ही करने को अनुमति है, उसको सपोर्ट भी मिल सकता है। फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट हो या पर्यावरण विभाग हो, या भी एक कैंपा का फंड है बहुत बड़ा, कॉम्पेंसेटरी फॉरेस्टेशन, तो उसके माध्यम से भी हमको हमारा कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट डेवलप करने के लिए, बायोडायवर्सिटी प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए हमको आर्थिक सहयोग मिल सकता है। तो इस दृष्टि से मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इन राज्यों में भी इसको इनिशिएट करना चाहिए, और ये ट्रेडिशन के अनुसार ही है। इसलिए जो ट्रेडिशन है इसमें कोई डिस्टर्ब नहीं होने वाला है। फिर गांव के लोग ही उसके लिए कमिटी नियुक्त करना है, तो जो हमारी ट्रेडिशनल सिस्टम है, गांव का हेडमैन है, वही उसके कमिटी का प्रमुख हम बना सकते हैं। वो सारा डिस्क्रिप्शन गांव के ऊपर है। तो मेरे दृष्टि से ऐसा लगता है कि जो हमारे नेचुरल राइट्स है, जो कम्युनिटी सैकड़ों साल से कर रहे हैं, उसको आज की संवैधानिक कानून में भी उसको रिकॉर्ड ऑफ राइट्स में दर्ज करने की आवश्यकता है। ये एक मेरा बिंदु है। दूसरा, जो आसाम की दृष्टि से हम देखेंगे तो जहां ऑटोनोमस डिस्ट्रिक्ट काउंसिल है, जैसे एक सर्वे हुआ था, एक फैक्ट फाइंडिंग कमेटी गठित हुई थी एक रिटायर्ड जस्टिस धिंगरा जी की अध्यक्षता में। अभी लास्ट ईयर उन्होंने सर्वे किया, तो जो मोइबोंग एरिया है डिमासो में, वहां पर अभी लोगों को पता ही नहीं है। वहां रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट 3 प्रकार के हैं, एक सेंट्रल फॉरेस्ट है, एक स्टेट फॉरेस्ट है, एक ऑटोनोमस डिस्ट्रिक्ट काउंसिल का फॉरेस्ट है। तो इसमें निर्णय कौन करना, इसलिए वहां अभी स्टार्ट ही नहीं हुआ है। फॉरेस्ट राइट कमिटी भी गठित नहीं हुई है, लेकिन उस मोइबोंग के फॉरेस्ट में ऐसे विलेजेस है वो जहां एग्रीकल्चर कर रहे हैं। फॉरेस्ट लैंड में आज एक दृष्टि से वो एनक्रोचर्स है। तो अगर वहां राइट सेटल होंगे तो इसके लिए एक आवश्यक है कि मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ ट्राइबल अफेयर्स से एक मांग लेना चाहिए गाइडलाइंस की, ये जो सेंट्रल फॉरेस्ट, स्टेट फॉरेस्ट और ऑटोनोमस डिस्ट्रिक्ट काउंसिल के फॉरेस्ट है, इसमें इस राइट को कैसे देना। वास्तविक कानून में क्लियर है कि कोई भी अनसर्वेड फॉरेस्ट भी हो वहां भी ये कानून लागू होगा। रिजर्व फॉरेस्ट, नेशनल वाइल्ड लाइफ फॉरेस्ट, काजीरंगा फॉरेस्ट में भी ये राइट सेटल हो सकते हैं, फिर वो ग्रेजिंग राइट्स हो या कोई फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस कलेक्शन के राइट्स हो। और दूसरा, मुझे एक बात लगता है कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट में टूरिज्म भी एक बहुत अच्छी संभावना है। और जैसे अरुणाचल में कुछ गांवों ने इस प्रकार से कुछ टूरिज्म तैयार भी किया है। अलग अलग प्रकार की बायोडायवर्सिटी भी है, पशु पक्षी प्राणी है। तो इसीलिए अगर होम टूरिज्म जैसे गांव-गांव में शुरू कर सकते हैं तो ये कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट के अधिकार में ये टूरिज्म का अधिकार भी गांव को आता है। और इसलिए मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि वो जो ऑटोनोमस डिस्ट्रिक्ट काउंसिल में जो लेने की आवश्यकता है दीमा असम में, इसको थोड़ा ध्यान देना चाहिए। और एक आसाम में विषय है हैलाकांडी में, वहां कुछ ऐसे जनजातियां हैं जो रियांग है, नागा है, खासी है, मार है, जो एडजेसेंट प्रदेशों से आए, कोई मिजोरम से, कोई नागालैंड से, मेघालय से। वहां ट्राइब का स्टेटस नहीं है, दे आर नॉट शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब। तो फॉरेस्ट राइट मिलने के लिए अगर वो शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब नहीं है तो 3 जनरेशंस का प्रूफ देना चाहिए। 75 शिफ्टिंग कल्टीवेशन नेचर, वो लोग अगर 1950 में 60 में उधर आए होंगे दक्षिण असम में, उनको इस प्रकार से ट्रीट हो रहा है कि हिल ट्राइब्स इन प्लेन। अब ये तो कोई क्राइटेरिया नहीं है, हिल ट्राइब्स इन प्लेन एंड, लेकिन ये जो हिस्टोरिकल इनजस्टिस हो रहा है, इस कानून में लिखा ही है कि हिस्टोरिकल इनजस्टिस को दूर कर रहे हैं। और वो केवल ब्रिटिशों के कानून से नहीं, आजादी के बाद भारत के ही कानून चल रहे हैं, उसके द्वारा भी अन्याय हुआ है। आज भी रियांग लोगों को, दे आर नॉट शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब, दे आर हिल ट्राइब्स इन प्लेन, लेकिन उसमें लिखा है कि इकोनॉमिकल, एजुकेशनल एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट बेनिफिट मिल सकता है। तो इकोनॉमिकल बेनिफिट अगर मिल सकता है तो उनको टाइटल क्यों नहीं मिलता है, जो 25-50 साल से वहां खेती कर रहे हैं। इसीलिए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को उसके पीछे लगना पड़ेगा, उसके लिए नहीं तो नेशनल कमीशन फॉर शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब या अलग अलग माध्यम से स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने पॉलिसी डिसीजन लेने की आवश्यकता है। इसके लिए जो एडवोकेसी करना है या एक्टिविज्म करना है, कुछ एक्टिविटीज करना है, ये समाज को और हमारे जैसे प्रबुद्ध लोगों को करने की आवश्यकता है कि हमारे देश में जो पीढ़ियों से ट्राइबल अपने फॉरेस्ट पर अवलंबित है, आज भी उनको राइट्स आजादी के बाद प्राप्त नहीं हुए। और 2006 का कानून बनकर आज बहुत साल हो गए, 20 साल, 18 साल हो गए। इसलिए मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये जो इश्यूज है मुख्यतः आसाम में और त्रिपुरा में, तो इसको जो प्रोसेस है वो ठीक से फॉलो करने की आवश्यकता है। और इसीलिए मुझे कुछ सुझाव मेरे ऐसे है कि सभी स्टेट में एक स्टेट लेवल मॉनिटरिंग कमिटी है। ये फॉरेस्ट राइट एक्ट को इंप्लीमेंट करने के लिए SMLC, स्टेट लेवल मॉनिटरिंग कमिटी, वो चीफ सेक्रेटरी की अध्यक्षता में है। उसमें ट्राइबल सेक्रेटरी, फॉरेस्ट सेक्रेटरी, रूरल डेवलपमेंट सेक्रेटरी सब रहते हैं। वो स्टेट लेवल कमेटी की मीटिंग के मिनट्स पूछना चाहिए आरटीआई में, या लोगों से, चीफ मिनिस्टर से मिलकर ये ज्ञापन देना चाहिए, ट्राइबल मिनिस्टर को ज्ञापन देना चाहिए, और ये स्टेट लेवल मॉनिटरिंग कमेटी की मीटिंग में इस संबंध में पॉलिसी डिसीजन करने की आवश्यकता है, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। और इसके लिए स्टेट लेवल पर गवर्नमेंट कुछ टास्क फोर्स भी गठित कर सकते हैं। और कितना पोटेंशियल है, एक तो ऐसा है कि इस कानून का स्टेट में कितना पोटेंशियल है, ये तो गवर्नमेंट ने ऑन पोर्टल देना चाहिए, तब पता चलेगा कि पोटेंशियल कितना है और आज कितना हुआ है, कितना परसेंट इसका इंप्लीमेंटेशन। तो इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि अपना जो टॉपिक है वो फॉरेस्ट राइट एक्ट में जो मुख्य रूप से कम्युनिटी फॉरेस्ट राइट, इसके इंप्लीमेंटिंग स्टेटस, इसके लिए पोटेंशियल मैपिंग की बहुत आवश्यकता है, वो गवर्नमेंट ने करना चाहिए। और शासन प्रशासन के साथ हम जैसे जो समाज के एनजीओज है, ग्रीन समिट में सहभागी होने वाले हम सब प्रबुद्ध जन हैं, अलग अलग संस्थाएं हैं, इन्होंने मिलकर एक ग्रुप बनाकर अपने अपने स्टेट में, क्योंकि ये कोई किसी को राइट देने का नहीं है, वास्तविक हमारी जैव विविधता, हमारा पर्यावरण, ये सारा प्रोटेक्ट जिससे हो सकता है, ऐसा ये कानून है। और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इस दृष्टि से हमको इसको विचार करना चाहिए। और इस पंक्ति को फिर से मैं दोहरा हूं कि हेल्थ ऑफ द हिल्स इज वेल्थ ऑफ द प्लेन्स। इस भाव को लेकर इस देश के लिए, सब समाज के लिए आवश्यक इस दृष्टि से इस पहाड़ों में रहने वाले शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब या अदर फॉरेस्ट, ट्रेडिशनल फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स, इन सबको अवेयर करते हुए, शासन में पॉलिसी इंटरवेंशन करते हुए हम सबको मिलकर इसका इंप्लीमेंटेशन के लिए प्रयास करना चाहिए। सभी को फिर से एक बार धन्यवाद।
Thank you, sir. Now I request Tensang Ji Momin, sir, President Garo Student Unions, to come on stage and have a few words from your side.
I don't know what more to speak anymore because almost all the points have been covered by everybody. So what I'm speaking could be repeating the same thing. So I'll try not to repeat. And on the other hand, I'm not well versed in this community forest rights. Because simply, just as one speaker has said, the panelists has spoken, that I'm from Meghalaya. So FRA does not work there. And I believe it will get rejected. Because as far as our rights over our land is concerned, our ownership is concerned, I will be the one who will have to be standing up against this FRA, saying that please don't take our land ownership rights. I'm very sorry about that. But on the other point, say, I know that there's been some injustices done to our people, or the whole of India. Say, in the colonial times, during the British times, there was a concept called eminent domain, which says that this was done in the Indian Forest Act 1878. Now, what the Britishers did was they took over our forest rights. So our marginal communities, our scheduled castes, our scheduled tribes, they lost control over the forest. And the Britishers started to treat our forest as timber resources. And shifting cultivation was banned. That was an age-old traditional practice before it happened there also, but it was banned by the British. Then the communities, especially the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribe, under the 5th schedule, especially under the 5th schedule, they began to lose more concessions. And whatever right they have, it was taken as a privilege. So the Britishers could simply take away that privilege and say, no, you are the trespassers in this land. Their own land in the forest. The Britishers could say, no, no, you're trespassers. Get out of this forest. That was how the Britishers began treating our locals as trespassers in their own land. So even after independence, the Indian government also followed almost the same tactic. So forest was treated as a state property by the Indian government after independence. Then they started to lease forest land as agricultural land. Then came the Wildlife Protection 1972, Act 1972. It was also based on eminent domain. No, no, no. This is the state land. This is India's land. We are the property owners. You who have been living here as indigenous people for thousands and thousands of years, you do not have the right. So community consent was circumvented through such acts by the Indian government, because it was simply following the rules made by the Britishers. So the problem is now, I'm not saying that the scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers recognition of forest rights Act 2006, I'm not saying it's a bad one. See, for the scheduled areas, especially the scheduled tribes in other parts of India, it is good for them, because this act was legislated after protracted struggle by these marginal communities, by these tribal communities, for regaining the rights over the land. To make sure that this injustice done to the indigenous people in the tribal lands in other parts of India, this act came into existence. Again, the problem was when it was implemented. So it looks rosy, it looks very good on the outside. Oh, we are giving individual ownership to the families. We are giving community forest rights. It looks very much good. But the devil is in the details. The problem is implementation. The problem is some sort of a corruption here and there. That's the problem. India has many acts that are very good on paper. It's very good on paper. See, I'm from Garo Hills. We have a district council. It is called the Autonomous District Council. Very good. Almost 80% of the land is under the control of the communities and under the district council. Very good. But the problem starts when the state government and the district council wants to pass a law, or if a law has already been passed. I'm talking about the word autonomous, the autonomy. We are not a complete autonomous region. That is wrong. Both for Jaintia Hills Autonomous District Council, both for Khas Hills Autonomous District Council, also for Garo Hills Autonomous District Council. See, there's a very needling point called Para 12A, which simply says that if the district council passes a bill or drafts a bill to be passed in the district council, if that bill is repugnant to the laws that have already passed by the state government, the laws or the legislation of the state government will take precedence. So where is the autonomy here? It looks very good on paper. Very good on paper. So, and another thing is, since the governor is the one, because every bill drafted by the council, it must go to the governor. Now the problem is, The governor is the head of that this one establishment, but the problem is the governor can take action only on the advice of the Council of Ministers. Now the members of the district council, they are not the Council of Ministers of the governor. The governor will have to send back that draft back to the state government, because the state cabinet is the Council of Ministers of the governor. So see the problem here. Okay, by right, by formality, through formality, we can pass it to the governor. The governor cannot take any decision without the cabinet. That means the Council of Ministers. So it will give it back. Now the fight starts between the district council and the state government. So everything looks rosy on the outside, but once when it comes to implementation or exercise of those rights, we have a problem. So just like that, I know what I'm saying is not 100% correct, but from my experience, it is very much correct. Because I've been also one of the civil societies who was called upon. I have more than 100 cases, by the way. Even indirectly, I have a murder case. Not done by me, I was not even there. Somebody's killed somebody. In the case, I think Sakji Moment is also under murder case. That's why I'm not getting passport to go to Bangladesh. I think, but anyway, that thing has gone because it was just misdirection from on part of the government. Okay, fine. Now, regarding the problem of implementation, see, there were around say 44 lakh claims made by the scheduled tribes or the forest dwellers, traditional forest dwellers, or people from the scheduled caste. There 44 lakh claims were there, claiming or appealing for ownership of the land they have been in for so many years. But from these 44 lakh claims, 20.5 lakh claims were simply rejected, which is almost 46.5%. Now, there was a case filed by a party named Wildlife First, I think. Yeah, Wildlife First and others versus the Ministry of Environment. Here, at first it looks like the Wildlife First was fighting for the marginal community, was fighting for the scheduled tribes. But upon closer inspection, upon closer examination, it was found that they were in collaboration with the government. They were in collaboration with the government. So, and there are other problems also. Say like wildlife activists. Some wildlife activist groups claim that no, do not make this, implement this rule, act. Because if you implement this act, many of the forest areas will be taken over by the scheduled tribes, the scheduled castes, or other traditional forest dwellers. It will be taken over by them. That means, as the population increases, it will have an impact on the environment. It will have an impact on. Now you have to understand the difference between individual forest, individual rights on over forest land, and the community rights over forest land. When we are talking about individual rights, from what I remember, it's about giving 4 acres to a family. That's the ceiling. You cannot go more than 4 acres, even if you're staying in that land. But if you're living in a forest area, and you have been using 3 acres, you can get only 3 acres. These are things. Another thing is you have to go to the Gram Sabha, and then there is a committee at the sub-district level. And then there is another, you have to go after Talukdar, after subdivision, you have to again go to the district level committee. Now, remember these district level officers will be under the ministers, correct? MLAs, MPs, whatever. They will be under them also. So there is a political problem also. The political problem is now the politicians have begun to think that FRA, Forest Rights Act, is something of an individual right. They want to keep just with individual. And mind you, I'm not talking about family. If you're powerful enough, you might be able to get land there. Because there's the minister there, right up there. And not every people, there's mainstream people like the scheduled tribes. They do not like the scheduled caste. They consider them inferior. We know that one. We know that one. We know that one. We have a caste system in India. It is there for everyone to see. So the point is, now, basing on their individual rights, there will be corruption. The politicians will give it to somebody who is not deserving of that land. So these are various implementation rights we are facing right now. The deserving ones sometimes are not getting. And bogus people are claiming they are from the scheduled tribes. They've been traditional forest dwellers. They have been claiming. The Gram Sabha will also be under pressure. The another point is, see, in a village, in a Gram Sabha, it is not highly populated as the urban area. The MPs, the MLAs, call it whatever, they do not care about 50, 60, 100, 200 votes. Why should they care? So their rights get just trampled. They do not care. So these are the problems we are facing as far as FRA is concerned. Now the point is, I am not against FRA, especially in fifth schedule areas, especially in the fifth schedule areas and other traditional forest dwellers. I'm not against them. It will be good for them if it's implemented correctly. But one thing I'm saying is, I cannot speak for the whole of Northeast, but one thing I'm saying is this: FRA, if it comes to Meghalaya, I will be the one who will be protesting. I will be the one who will be getting another case again. Because I'll be calling a strike, I'll be calling a ban, whatever is needed. We have our, even if it fails, the Autonomous District Council, we still have our land ownership rights. Nobody can take our land. Take for example in Assam, when you want to build a road, you just build a road. You don't care whether somebody is occupying that house, you don't care whether somebody has an orchard there or garden there. But not in Meghalaya. You have to give compensation, or you have to get permission from the district council or from the community people. You have to get it, because it is the law. Now why I'm saying this one, see, everybody says that Zoom cultivation is bad, shifting cultivation is bad. Correct, understand. As the esteemed panelist was saying, this subsistence farming has now gone to the commercial area, because they are trying to sell now. So there is obviously a pressure on land also. And then there are some people who, in the guise of traditional Zoom cultivation, are asking the villagers to cut off lands, cut off the trees, not for Zoom cultivation, for timber. So there are problems with Zoom cultivation also. But what Zoom cultivation is good for one thing: our traditional seeds, our traditional plants, our traditional vegetables, it will be lost. Most of the hybrid seeds, you cannot have seeds. It's just manufactured in a lab. So Zoom cultivation is good in one way. Those ancient plants, those ancient seeds, we can preserve that one. So it must not be lost. It must not be lost. These seeds, these plants, these vegetables must not be lost. So in a way, what I'm trying to tell you is, there must be a balance when the implementation of FRA is coming into effect. It must be seen, because our forests, our lands are sometimes connected to our beliefs, sometimes connected to our traditional practices, our culinary practices, how we cook, how we eat. All this will be lost. So I hope that FRA is implemented correctly in the other parts of India. But even if the government wants to implement FRA, in the scheduled tribe areas, especially under the 6th schedule, they must understand that we have our rights also. Thank you.
For sharing your experience and checking out the ground reality about the implementations and impact of community forest right. Now I like to if anyone have any questions regarding community forest right, you can ask to the panel member.
A very good presentation. Being a student leader as well as a tribal indigenous tribal activist, that's your sound, your issue is very loud and clear. One thing I would like to that's a kind of code is in tribal society, every forest, the natures, rivers, it has related with the indigenous religion, indigenous faith. That you have spoken. It is related with the correlated with the belief system of the indigenous tribal, particularly the indigenous religion. In this context, in Meghalaya, especially in your Garo Hills, how many percentage are there the indigenous faith and culture, particularly the indigenous religion? Are there how many percent? If there, how many percentages are there? Because until unless you have indigenous faith and culture, you cannot relate with the nature, you cannot relate with the forests and natures and all this, including whatever you had talked. This is my chorus.
Thank you. Now they become Christians now. Now there are only 6 or 7 villages who are practicing their ancient beliefs and traditions and customs. But in a way, since almost 80%, I'm not talking about Kasils, I'm not talking about Gentiles, but almost 80% of the people are in the rural areas. So they are not that well developed. So they do practice the ancient culture, but it is being diluted with the hints of Christianity right now. So in a way, yeah, interesting question. But we are trying to create awareness as far as our traditional practices are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.